Stretch. It is still affirmed as they come to the quarter pole. He's holding on to a head lead.
They come on down to the 8th ball. It's Alydar on the outside. Affirmed along the rail.
It's Alydar and Affirmed battling back along the inside. We'll test these two to the wire.
30 years ago, Affirmed and Alydar ignited racing fans the world over, blasting across Churchill Downs, Pimlico, and Belmont Park, and giving us a triple crown for the ages. No horse has since matched Affirmed's feat of winning the Triple Crown or have approached the incredible rivalry of these two horses. The Blood Horse has brought together the two riders responsible for this magical series, Steve Cawthon for Affirmed, George Velasquez for Alydar, to relive these three great races, some of the finest moments in the history of this sport.
You know, I came to New York as a 16-year-old kid. I was like about 90 pounds, and Georgie, and you know, Georgie was in the corner right across from where the valet that I ended up with. Georgie kind of took me under his wing right from the beginning. You know, there's always a camaraderie in the jockeys room amongst, you know, pretty much everybody. But there's guys that you feel drawn to. I felt accepted, you know, right from the beginning, and so you know that was there, you know, really pretty much from day one.
He was amazing how he handled himself as a kid, coming to New York and breaking all kind of records and everything else, and he was just humble, very humble kid. So how can you deny him? You got to take him under your wings, and I was thrilled to have him in the room because the cameras was following him and everything else instead of following me. So I got it off my back for a while anyway. I remember one day in the afternoon, here come Mr. Alan Jerkins, and the race was just over. We're coming back from the paddock, and he asked me, "Who won this race?" I said, "Steve Cawthon." And he kicked a bucket that was around there, bam! And he's like, "What the hell is wrong with you guys? You letting this little kid come in town and win all the races, and what the hell is wrong with you guys?" So, but I mean, you know, it was, those days was great. It was great for Stevie. I was in my prime. I can't complain. It was just good for racing.
And before and after the Triple Crown, all through just Alydar and Affirmed, you know, which started in their 2-year-old year, you know. I think it, you know, it tightened our friendship. You know, I know Georgie wanted to win the Triple Crown races every bit as, you know, bad as I did, and yet, win, lose, or draw, he didn't feel any hardship towards me. You know, he was genuinely happy that, you know, for me.
Of course, you're riding a horse with a good chance to win. Do you think you have a good chance to win? You want everything to go perfect, you know, and that's the tension comes from.
Before and after the race, you're still friends, but during the race, you're out there for yourself, and your team. You know, you're just trying to do what you do, which is win the race. And we were both out there competing, you know, tooth and nail every one of those races. Whoever had won, you know, after the champagne, I was congratulating Georgie. It wasn't like Georgie wasn't, you know, tearing them up too. I mean, he was riding a lot of great horses, and you know, I mean, he was winning big races all the time. We were going out in the arena, you know, gladiators, doing our thing. But after we came back, you know, we stuck our swords in the ground and, you know, had a beer.
Ironically, neither Steve Cawthon or George Velasquez were on Affirmed or Alydar when the two horses began their racing careers.
I remember that Mr. John Veach called my agent and asked him to get me out there early morning because he's going to work Alydar, which I think is his Derby horse. He's a baby. He just started breathing. So he wants me to give him my opinion. So I went out there and worked him, 3/8 of a mile, which is nothing practically, but he worked with 3 other colts. And I put him behind the leaders and turned him for home. I swim out and he beat them easy. So I came back and I told John, I said, you know, I think you're right, this is our Derby horse. I like him very much. So and then I started getting on him every morning every morning. Every time he's working, I'm there, and we develop a kind of a nice, close relationship because every time he works, I stop him in the gate, I let him look around, he sees the horses going by, galloping and working and all that. Then when he's ready, he turns his head, open his mouth, and I drop a sugar in his mouth. And every time after he cools off, or when they cool him off on the shed road, if I go and work another horse and come back and hear my voice, he's dragging the hot walker to whatever spot I am, because I guess the sugar got him. And yes, we developed a very, very close. The only horse, I would say, in my 34 years career, the only horse that I really became attached to was Alydar. In the Florida Derby, for some reason, that day he didn't want to go in the gate.
Right.
And he was like, so the guys, the guys that working again, they grab him by the ear, they grab him by the tail, and then they started pushing and said, whoa, hold back. Let me handle it, please. Leave him alone. Let me handle it. So they let it go, and I tap him on the shoulder, and just talk to him, and then I say, hey, champ, you see all these people here? They came to see you perform. Don't be doing this over here in front of everybody. Come on, you got to get in the gate. Yeah. So I bend over, I grab it by the shin strap, and I said, come on, let's go in. And he walked right in the gate. Yeah. That's the type of relationship that we developed,
Lucky for me, Angel had won on the horse. He'd won a stake on him. Then he was second to Alydar in another stake. Then the horse went out to California, and Lafitte won on him by 7 lengths in what was the Hollywood Futurity then. The horse came back to Saratoga. It was right after I'd had an injury as well. I just got back, and the first horse I rode back was a horse for Lasbury called Little Miracle, which happened to be a half-brother to Affirmed. Angel obviously got the first chance to get the mount, but he had just found what he thought was a better horse called Tilt Up. Lafitte, I think, he didn't want to. It was back then the Sanford was like a $40,000 stake, so to come all the way from California to get to Saratoga, obviously he thought he was a nice horse, and probably thought, I can get back on him when I want to anyway. So I won on him in the Sanford, and he won. And that day, I had gone out to work him beforehand. He never was much of a big, workhorse, but he felt okay. And I rode him in the race, and he kind of that day, for some reason, he wanted to hang out, and he won. But I thought, it's a nice horse, but I wasn't like thinking, this is, the next superstar. The next race was the Hopeful, and that day was the day that I knew this is, a real serious horse. That they both were, because we flew down the stretch that day. Alydar, and Affirmed held on and beat him by, half a length or something. But I knew that day that if anything that I knew I needed to do was not let go of this horse.
Although Affirmed and Alydar met 6 times during their 2-year-old season, George Velasquez and Steve Cawthon were on their horses on only 2 of those occasions. The first time in the Champagne Stakes at Belmont Park.
In the Champagne Stakes, Affirmed was entertained by Derby Creek Road all the way. So that was the first time I think I was riding Alydar. So I just took my time, let the speed go, then 3/8 pole, and then I started asking my horse to run, and he flew 3/8 for him. So by Affirmed being entertained by the other horse, he didn't see my horse coming. I went by him, opened up about 3 or 4 lanes, and at the end, he was coming back. When he saw my horse, I beat him by 1.5 lengths. So now after that, we keep getting beat and keep getting beat, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Well, he's breaking okay. He's not so sharp like Affirmed out of the gate, but he breaks good. So I went back and looked at all his races, and finally went back to the Champagne Stake. When he finally saw my horse at the 8 pole, he left this horse, and he tried to close the ground on my horse. My horse was, I thought it was flying, so I said, he's a good horse, and he just do what he have to do.
That's all Affirmed was ever worried about. He never, was worried about doing much more than he had to do, but yet, he was always ready for a challenge and a fight. Affirmed needed Alydar to push him. He was only going to beat Radar ahead or whoever the heck it was, as far as he had to beat him, but when it was only Alydar that, was capable of making him, stretch away from the rest of the field. Alydar and Affirmed were 6 or 7 lengths better than the rest of their generation. Simple as that.
Alydar was a good horse, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Alydar won a bunch of Grade 1 races. People don't remember that. People only remember Alydar winning finishing second on the Triple Crown races. He won the Bluegrass. He won the Florida Derby. He won the Champagne. Then he beat the older horses in the Whitney by 10 lengths.
To be quite honest, I always had a big advantage because Affirmed just had, he had options. Alydar was kind of, he broke okay, but he broke a little slow. He had his own style, which was the best way for him to run. Pace makes race, and so when there wasn't a great deal of pace, it suited me down to the ground. I could be sitting first, second, or third, or wherever I wanted. Alydar, he had to, get leveled off and settled, and get ready to make his run, and sometimes forced to make his run sooner than he wanted to push me. Georgie always had the tougher deal riding Alydar.
While both Affirmed and Alydar enjoyed stellar 2-year-old seasons, the question remained, how would they and their riders handle the rigors of the Kentucky Derby and of the upcoming Triple Crown season?
Of course, every Derby you ride is very special. It's only one Derby, one Kentucky Derby, and it's once a year.
The only thing that was a little bit of surprise was like when Eddie rushed up on Believe It, which okay, so it just basically Affirmed just went, took me to the lead, and like you said, that day he was pricking his ears. I knew I had a ton of horse, and all I was really wanting to do was save enough to, for what I was expecting was Alydar's challenge, which, that day really didn't come until too late.
Throughout their 2-year-old seasons of 1977, Affirmed and Alydar were dominant in their division. As the calendar turned to 1978, the two great horses would meet for the first time in the Kentucky Derby. One thing that hadn't changed, Affirmed and Alydar were still at the top of their class.
There was other good horses, but Believe It was a really nice horse. Derby Creek Road was a pretty nice horse, and there was obviously the new horse that had shown up was Sensitive Prince.
Sensitive Prince,
who was unbeaten going into the Derby, very fast. Kind of like Big Brown is to the. You don't know how good he could be. And he obviously was a good horse. But so but we're deep down we knew that mainly if I didn't beat Alydar, I wasn't going to win, and he knew if he didn't beat me, he wasn't going to win. It was great. It was exciting. I was probably trying to keep my emotions in check more than anything. I was trying to treat it just like another race. I knew what I had to do. I knew, I had a game plan.
After you ride the Derby so many times, all depends what kind of chance you got. Do you feel that you got in the race to get more excited? So. Of course, every Derby you ride is very special. The Derby is the race, the one that makes you shake, the one that you can't sleep well the night before.
Coming into the Kentucky Derby, Steve Cawthon didn't receive much in the way of strategy from his trainer, Laz Barrera, nor did George Velasquez, as John Veach told him to pretty much do his own thing on Alydar.
The great thing, Laz never tied me down to any orders, but we always talked about the races, and we were pretty confident that Raymond Earl and that Sensitive Prince were going to be, so, we didn't, if the pace was hot, the great thing about Affirmed was, you could sit right off it or, whatever.
Well, John, actually, he never told me exactly what to do. He just wished me luck and stay out of trouble. That's what he used to tell me. And of course, Affirmed was not in those races, so I didn't have to worry about him. Well, I had to take my time with him and whatever he wants to be, and that was it. So he was better horse than those other horses.
Affirmed always, he broke great, he pinged out of the gate, but yet, you know, he was there kind of in a relaxed enough position. And when I saw Sensitive Prince was going to try to go up to the lead, I said, okay, great. So I just, you know, was able just to ease him off his heels. Just as we went in the turn, it left me, you know, three lengths off of the leaders, 4 lengths, and I was like in the perfect position I wanted to be in. And, you know, from that point on, all I was wanting to do was keep myself clear of trouble and
wait for me.
glide along and wait. Yeah.
I don't know, for some reason he wasn't handling the track at the beginning. I don't know, it was not. I should have reached back and hit him real hard at the beginning to make him go. But I didn't want to do that. You can't do that going 1.25 miles, you know. So I was just trying to keep him happy, like tap him in the shoulder and sharp to him, and to see if I can get in the beat, and so I can just, instead of me pushing, he takes me. But it never happened, so I don't know why. One of those mystery races.
Still in perfect position, Steve Cawthon and Affirmed were poised to take over the lead. What they didn't expect was the move made by Eddie Maple and Believe It, going for an early run to challenge Affirmed.
All of a sudden, those 2 front horses, they're starting to, you know, you can tell they're starting to collapse a little bit. So I want to be outside of them so that, you know, I'm whatever. But I'm like, I don't really want to go yet, and I'm just going to sit here until, you know, either they die and I have to go, or something comes and, you know, and like I said, Eddie, I guess at that time, you know, he just decided, I don't know, I'm going to push, you know, firm, whatever, I'm going to go. And so, and if, you know, you see it in a second, but it wasn't like I didn't even really have to move on Affirmed. He saw the horse coming, you know, because I had him positioned where he could, and it was like, okay, but you know, it wasn't like we were expending a lot more energy. It was just like the horse was like taking me to the lead.
It was coming on, but not exactly the way I wanted to.
Wasn't like he picked up the bit.
Not right. He never picked up the bit, and besides that, I'm losing ground all over every step of the way, you know. And
the only thing that was a little bit of surprise was like when Eddie rushed up on Believe It, which okay, so it just basically Affirmed just went, took me to the lead. And, you know, like you said, that day he was pricking his ears. I mean, I knew I had a ton of horse. It just made me go to the front a little sooner than I wanted. And I knew, like I said, knowing the horse, I'm thinking, I really don't, you know, as long as he was pushing me, that was okay. But pretty soon, he drops away. And that's when I'm thinking, oh, now I got to keep Affirmed focused, because I know I'm still thinking Alydar's going to come. I know he's coming. But when he's come from off the pace and hits the front, he thinks, I've done it. So I know I got to, you know, keep him focused, especially knowing, you know, as I said, that I'm thinking it's a long stretch, and, you know, I'm sure Alydar's somewhere back there. He's got to be coming. You know?
I was all out. I was whipping and driving there. I was. And he was coming on, but meanwhile I'm still way back and losing ground and everything else. And you see, I'm whipping and driving, and he is coming on, but hey, I thought I had a chance, but they wasn't coming back. So now I say, well, I'm going to be third. Then I switched sticks, and he started, all of a sudden he just took off on me. And I said, look at this. See, but still in the wrong lead.
Alydar was a truly great horse. The other thing that, you know, Alydar never really, he wasn't great about switching his leads. He always wanted to hang on that lead, which is a huge, you know, disadvantage. As a 2-year-old, I had Alydar breathing down my neck, pushing me all the way in those races. I wanted to keep him going, and I was looking, you know, because if he's coming, then I want to really make sure that my horse sees him. Like you said, I never forgot the champagne, you know, when he came wide and kind of, you know, got by. So I'm always thinking, you know, I want to make sure that I'm ready. You kind of have a sense of, you know, what's happening. And I just, like you said, I could feel like, you know, my horse was running. It wasn't like he was, you know, digging his toe. I mean, he was doing his thing, and I felt like as long as you can see him, he'll pick up again too, you know. So I was, you know, although I was trying to keep busy and keep whatever, I wasn't, you know, I was like, I felt like we were, you know, going to win as long as, you know, something that I couldn't foresee was going to happen. And all I was really wanting to do was save enough to, you know, for what I was expecting was Alydar's challenge, which, you know, that day really didn't come until too late. Although, you know, when you look at the replay and you realize he was pushing, you know, that far out, that, you know, the fact that he still did, you know, make that kind of final lunge was, you know, kind of impressive.
316 pole, I think I'm going to be third. That's about it. 8 pole, still like going to be third, and all of a sudden he just took off running. Like he just broke from the gate, you know. That's what makes you think, maybe next time
He was
I get
fooling
you.
with me.
I get you next time.
Right, yeah.
That next time would come 2 weeks later in the Preakness Stakes at Pimlico, and Alydar was being prepared to make his challenge to Affirmed far sooner this time. Would Affirmed be up to the challenge? Following Alydar's late rush in the Derby, his connections had high hopes for the Preakness. To that end, trainer John Veach worked Alydar twice sharply in the 2 weeks between the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. We asked both Steve Cawthon and George Velasquez whether they got up on their horses to train them before the Preakness.
I never got on Affirmed, you know. Well, I mean, I had worked him, but really once we got into, you know, the whole 3-year-old year, Toto, the kid who rode in the morning, always did most of the breezes because, you know, I'd go out and watch him, but, you know, he knew him fine.
I got on Alydar all the time. Every time he was going to work, John let me know, and I stopped by and work him. I got on him myself, yes.
And then they came back and they worked Alydar. You know, they gave him a good brisk work, right? You know, I kind of, you know, we knew that, you know, they were sharpening him up, and, you know, yeah, maybe he just didn't like the track, had a dull rate, you know, whatever. Like I said, no matter whatever happened, I never lost respect for Alydar, ever, you know, never the day it happened that, you know, I didn't respect that he, you know, was a heck of a horse and that he was always going to be a tough horse to beat in any race, on any distance, and any track. You know, so we went into the race, obviously, instead of, you know, there's a smaller field, you know, there was really Alydar, Believe It, Affirmed, you know, and the rest were pretty much pretenders, you know. They were there trying to step up or whatever. It wasn't like, you know, there was anything else really to worry about. I knew that the pace was, you know, there wasn't necessarily that much pace in the race, so there was a good chance that I might end up being on the lead, you know.
He brought good. We had no excuse. We had no excuse whatsoever. He's a horse that he can work 58, 59, 5/8 in the morning. He shows you a lot of speed, but in the afternoon, he won't show that kind of speed. He was a different horse. He would like to be just, you know.
Find his legs before he did his thing, yeah.
Right.
Even though Affirmed did break sharply at the Preakness, he was unexpectedly joined by long shot Track Reward going into the first turn.
You know, and like I'm thinking, you know, like you know, I just, it was a question of like, either go ahead and go, you know, and give me a lead, or I wanted to get by him so I could go ahead and relax, you know. But finally, you know, I could see I could get by him, and we were able to, and then it was fine. And we were only going 23 and change. It wasn't like we were flying, but it was like I didn't want my horse to get in an annoying little, you know. It doesn't matter if you're going 22 and change or 23 and change if your horse is, you know, if you're being aggravated by another horse. So I just wanted to either say, go ahead, you know, either you go ahead and go, or I'll do it, you know. And luckily, halfway around the turn, we got it figured out, and I was able to scoot on by him and, you know, get in front. And then as soon as I did, Affirmed relaxed, which is the kind of horse he was.
I'm working on my horse, and Steve is sitting there in the front just waiting for me. I was trying to get my horse going, and he was responding. He was coming on, and but when I got to Steve's horse, Affirmed, he took off with me.
I mean, I think that day, you know, some claimers had run the first 3 quarters faster than we did in the Preakness that day. Not that, you know, but it was still, you know, like we went 3 quarters and 11. And so, you know, really, I was aware of him sort of halfway around the turn that Alydar was there, and that, you know, and like Georgie said, he was close enough to, you know, beat me if he could get by me.
Well, yes, when I started making my move outside, I know Stevie was, you know, taking it easy in the front, but my horse was running. My horse was running fast, so I'm moving outside, I say, well, I got a chance to win. As a matter of fact, when it turning for home, when he changed right, he opened up on me. I was a little disappointed when he changed right, his horse Affirmed, and he opened up on me and kind of left me there. Right there, I'm close to him, and all of a sudden, look, he went out. He opened up on me, and I said, man, what is this? So now my horse, I work on my horse again, and he keep coming, and he keep coming, and he keep coming, and he keep trying.
I mean, like right now, I'm starting to feel him, you know, and then this day I might have just done that, I think, and I saw, I know he was there, and I'm like, okay, and I believe it was there too. Like I said, when he was in front like this, it was like he was just waiting for the challenge himself. But I know he's primed, ready for action as soon as, you know, if it and when it comes, and like it came, you know. But, you know, again, Affirmed had enough, you know, it's like I felt, you know, he's same thing. He's coming to the stretch, pricking his ears, and I'm thinking, I know I got plenty of horse, and, you know, when we came, I mean, we flew. I mean, you could just feel the horses just, you know.
Hitting left-handed, trying to surprise him to see if he's changed stride. Yeah, right. But he didn't want to switch over anyway. Right there, I said, and I'm not gonna try to make him change when I know that he's not gonna change. You know, he's that type of horse. I don't know why.
That day, I always felt like I had him. You know, I was reaching back and hitting, but you know, I just felt like I had him. You know, it was like I wasn't thinking. There wasn't any point of that race that I thought I think I'm going to get beat. You know, I felt like I got him. He's there. He ain't giving up. I got him. But, you know, and then, you know, we get to the wire and, you know, he held on by a neck.
Those two horses was like Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. The Joe Frazier always get the best out of Muhammad.
It was a great finish. I never felt like I did in the Belmont, like, oh, this is bad. You know, this is trouble. We got to find something else. You know.
Cawthon had reason to be concerned going into the Belmont. The test of the champion at 1.5 miles would prove to be the greatest battle yet between Affirmed and Alydar. Affirmed was able to pocket the first 2 jewels of the Triple Crown, but would he be able to outrun Alydar one more time in the testing 1.5 mile Belmont Stakes?
Nobody knows if their horse is going to stay 1.5 miles. I think, you know, with Alydar, you know, the way he ran and everything, you would have to think that that was what he wanted. Affirmed, really, you know, his pedigree, you know, wasn't necessary. I mean, you know, saying that he wanted a mile, but, you know, great horses do what they have to do, you know, you know, going into the Belmont, like you said, I had plenty of reservations, but yet, you know, I knew heart wasn't going to be the issue with Affirmed, and you know, the Derby had been, you know, we'd won comfortably enough, and the Preakness, I felt, you know, so, you know, I mean, you're going into it with as much confidence as you possibly can have, you know, I'd say, yet knowing that you're going into unknown territory as far as distance and all that.
Tell you what, he was well trained by Mr. John Veach, and he was ready. The horse was ready. The only concern was about making him change strides, making change leads, and he didn't. So we got to be a nose. Steve and I, we know that if a horse turning for home change stride to the right lead, then he's give you a little extra. Alydar never did. So that little extra that I needed, he didn't give it to me. He heart-wise, yes, his heart was out there. He was trying. He tried his best, you know. But little things that he should done, like changing stride, he didn't, and it might have cost me the race.
During that 5-week span of the Triple Crown specifically, is it tough to keep your mind on the other races you're riding? This is such a kind of a momentous thing going on between the two of you. Is it tough to concentrate on the third race, or is it tough to keep up the friendship
I wouldn't
the
say
same way?
No, I don't think so. I think, see, we have a pattern. Every race that you go out now to ride, you got what we call it the Bible, which is the racing form. So we started the racing form, and you go out there to the paddock to get instructions. You know what you're doing already. You don't need the instructions, you know. Of course, you're getting paid to ride the horses, so you're going to have to listen to the trainer or the owners. Right. But I want you always concentrate when because you go over the race that you are riding at the moment.
I think the other races actually help you relax a little bit. You know, it keeps the focus off of the, you know, in the back of your mind it's always there, but, you know, that's like a rest from thinking about, you know, what's coming up. You know? The longest time in my life ever was the 3 weeks between the Preakness and the Belmont, because the pressure, as you say, I mean, I was being interviewed in Australia, Japan. I mean, people were following me into the the restroom. You know, I was like, whoa, hey, this is where it stops. You know, and but it was the same for Georgie too. I mean, you know, they're all. It's like, you know, what do you think? Okay, this happened in the Derby. This happened in the Preakness. How are you gonna change it? How are you gonna change it? How are you gonna pull it off? You know, it's like, you know, it starts to wear on you. You know, you start, you know, if you got a little bit back off from it, or else it gets into your, you know, your 24/7 focus. Sometimes I wonder if you know, I was too young and dumb to know the difference. It might have been a blessing. I don't know, but it was exciting, and yet, you know, pressure filled, especially leading up to that race. You know, I mean, it's not like there was a lot between them in any other races. It's not like we're talking like we got to make up, you know, 5 lengths or figure out how to figure. You know, it's like one small mistake. One little thing can switch the thing either way.
One thing I did want Mr. Beach took the blinkers off before the Belmont. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
What was the reasoning there, do you think?
Well, he was looking for, because it's a mile and a half, to make him relax and make sure that he was looking to do better. And going a mile and a half, sometimes the blinkers they get the horses a little bit too sharp, and they kind of run away from you in the beginning and all that. But it make no difference really. He tried with the blinkers or without the blinkers. He was just a nice horse.
It was a 5-horse race, and, you know, the only other horse with any, you know, Derby Creek Road, the other 2 were, you know, just filling the gate. And, you know, I mean, the thing really was with me, Alydar was drawn in the inside of me. So I knew my horse was going to break good, and I knew I was able to sit, you know, off of the fence a little bit. I didn't want to, you know, which tends to relax a horse, you know. When you're off, it's like, you know, are we going for a gallop or are we working? You know, usually when you're dropping that. So I kind of stayed off the fence. But I knew, because I knew Alydar really wasn't in love with the inside anyway. So I'm sitting here.
You're planning a trap for me, huh?
No, just like, you know, if you want to go in there, you know. But like, I'm just, you know, I know I can relax, and I know eventually, you know, if Alydar is going to come, he's probably going to come around me. So.
See, right there, going to the turn, Steve left a little hole in there for me to go in there. I don't want to go in there. I do not want to be in a position for him to get me in a trap. So it's only a 5-horse field. And that would have been ridiculous if he got me in the trap all the way. And so I make sure that I turn, you know, make the turn, and then on the backside I come out for the drive.
When you say get you in a trap, you mean keep you very close into the rail, or?
Yeah, or tight, or, you know.
Which is intimidating. And the other thing is, in a small field, when you're going no pace, and they're all bunched, it can stay that way. The horses don't break up. So, you know, amazingly, in a small field, you know, you can stay trapped long enough to where it costs you the race. I knew where he was in the break, so I knew he's down there at least to start with. And I'm like I said, I don't mind if because I know the horse. I've ridden against him enough. I'm thinking, I don't think Alydar really wants to come up on the inside anyway. That's not his happy place. So, you know, eventually I don't think, you know, so I figure. And part of the reason, too, is I'm keeping my horse off the rail to keep him relaxed. You know, just like say, hey, we're out here for a gallop. You know, we're not racing. Yeah, we're just galloping. Trying to keep him, you know, relaxed as long as I can, not wanting him to, keeping him switched off so that, you know, that he can get home. He was
a big horse, you know, and I prefer the outside than the inside. 25. Come on, Stevie, man. Come on, Stevie. How can you go so slowly now?
So I was able to, you know, like I said, we were able to go the first quarter slow, the first half slow, And then eventually, Georgie got Alydar where he wanted, and he came to start pushing the pace.
Alydar won't settle for that and moves alongside, and it is Alydar who's going up now to challenge that pace.
See, watch Stevie's hands. See how comfortable he's gone, and look at me outside. And I'm not sitting there. I'll say, well, let me put a little pressure on, because I find out right away the first quarter in 25, and then now in the second quarter we went 24, if I'm not mistaken.
So
was a little better. And then, see, we went 25-50. So we went the second quarter and 24. And see right there, look at my hands.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to you.
We're going slow, and it's like like I said, they're trying to, didn't work. The other ways didn't work, so you tried another. We'll run him into the ground.
My opinion was that he's the horse to beat. He's in front of me. I gotta go get him.
Yeah.
So let me put the pressure on, and this is a mile and a half. Let's see who's who in America. And he got me anyhow.
But again, this is the great, blessing that I have with Affirmed, is that when he came to me, it wasn't like I had to go. He's still relaxed. And I'm like, okay, let's look at each other for. I'm not going to let you push me too much because I don't want to go yet.
I was happy to come up to him and increase the pace. I just want to be that competition. I just want to make him run for his money.
Eventually, the race has to start taking place. As long as he didn't push me too fast, I was happy to sit there. But I wasn't. If he had tried to push me much further, I was actually going to say go ahead. I didn't want to. The thing was, again, just like I don't think he wants to go on the inside, I don't think he wants to go to the front 7 furlongs out, Alydar. So I'm thinking, I'm willing to sit here and let's bide our time, but the race is eventually going to happen, and we start. So then it's like we start quickening around the turn, and he's there. It's really at the stage where we kind of just before we're getting in the stretch. The horses have been quickening, and it was at that stage where I could kind of feel a little bit of fatigue. The Affirmed was like like this is it's not like I got a lot left, and not like I felt in the Preakness. Like he's pressing me.
I was coming on, but I still have to save a little horse for the end, so I couldn't just ask my horse for everything he got,
Right.
So I was aware that still we're coming to the quarter pole, and so I was going to the half a mile pole. I'm working on it little by little, but I didn't want to give me everything that he got. So
Alydar kept digging in, kept fighting. I think maybe for a second he did get his head in front. That day when I actually did hit him left-handed, it felt like he just kind of, Affirmed just got his head back in front to where, and at that point, it felt like he wasn't going to let him by,
When your horse is running in the wrong lead, like Alydar was, it's kind of hard to get real close to the other horse, because he's got the tension. Yeah, you got the tension to drift out instead of going in. So to enable to do that, I have to pull him back in, and I want to make sure that if I don't bother him. I want to crowd him a little bit, but I don't want to bother him. So, and the Belmont Stakes, I thought I really was going to beat him. And right about there, right now, I'm like, I'm in trouble. He's going to beat me again.
You think so?
And
even as close as
I'm working on Alydar, whipping and driving and everything else. And when Stevie hit left, and I can see his horse like responding. He kind of wake up, and he's not letting me go by, and we passed the wire, and he beat me on nose, big nose. But he did beat me. I said, oh no, again.
I was one relieved puppy at that point.
Yeah.
You both know.
And then the man,
What did you say?
about
Did you say
2
when
strides,
did you first
he
start?
congratulated me.
I said,
a few strides
congratulations,
after,
Steve.
yeah, he was
Right after.
right after, yeah, right. But 2 strides later.
Because I know he beat me, so I said, congratulations, Stevie. I wasn't too happy about it, but
But he was very classy, real classy.
I was hurt. Deep down inside, my heart was bleeding. But I have to say, congratulations, Steve. He rode a great race. He won the Triple Crown. Hey, any rider would love to be in that position.
You know, the greatest thing about the whole thing was I think it was a great thing for racing. You know, the great thing for racing was that you had two great teams, the Alydar camp, you know, and the Calumet camp, that were great trainers on both sides, great, you know, top jockeys on both sides, great owners on both sides, and nobody was fighting. You know, we were out there. It was the real sportsmanship still was the main thing. You know, both sides wanted to win, and the great thing was that they were great races every time. The Derby was a great race that left a lot of people thinking, well, can Alydar do it next time? The Preakness, same thing. Finally, you know, another mile and a half, you know, the Belmont, is it what's going to happen this time? And the horses came back every time and gave their best. You know, they were there each time. You know, they were thrilling races. Like you said, the build up to the Belmont was like unbelievable, and yet it was, you know, it wasn't like an anticlimactic thing. You know, it was the race was greater than you could ever imagine. And so I think it was just the thing that at the end of it all that I was the most proud of was that this was great for racing. This attracted millions of fans around the world to the sport. You know, everybody conducted themselves in a very positive, in victory and defeat. It was a win-win for everybody. There was no loser.
16th hole, it's a bird.